Yeah, this award is our testament for our sheer consistency, hard work and pure commitment. FSMOne Recommended Unit Trust 2026-2027 proves that our team is such a great team managing all the funds for the investors in the industry. And then our awards spanning across equity and fixed income. We have KAF Investment Fund and we have KAF Core Income Fund for equity side and KAF Bond Fund and KAF Sukuk Fund. It proves that our research and our capabilities in managing funds are quite unique, and that's why our funds are picked to be recommended by FSMOne. The primary driver behind the performance of our funds has been unwavering commitment into our fundamentals bottom-up stock picking research. We don't just buy the index, but we look for mispriced opportunities. For example, like for KAF Vision Fund, it's a small mid-cap fund, so the team is vigorously trying to find opportunities in mispricing so that they can capture the upside for the small and mid-cap markets. And for KAF Core Income Fund, we look for such a growth in companies, medium to large cap companies, so that the manager can also exert some consistency in the returns from these holdings of companies in their portfolio. However, pursuing our return is halfway to. The next theme that we should look at is the capital preservation. So KAF Bond Fund and KAF Sukuk Fund emphasize more on capital preservation, and we have our fixed income manager managing the funds and maintain the consistency of returns to at least be able to give a positive return to our investors. Our risk management is not just an afterthought, but it's also our commitment so that we can maintain the consistency of returns in our portfolio. We have rigorous liquidity assessment where our risk management team always try to assess the liquidity risk of the portfolio. We have threshold of diversification rules where the risk management team also looking at the concentration risk of the portfolio. We have micro and credit ratings assessment so that we hold investment grade and quality holdings into our portfolio. Looking at the landscape ahead against the backdrop of the macroeconomy, we have to approach it with a selective and dual approach to growth and stability. I think the primary headwinds that we are monitoring closely is the persistent geopolitical and inflationary pressure in Malaysia, and also supply chain configuration stemming from the global trade conflicts. And locally, Malaysia economy has remained quite resilient. We have to keep a close eye to local manufacturing companies and the global trades as well that might affect our Malaysian trade numbers. So that's why I think for this type of approach, whenever there's a headwinds to the economy, I think what kind of investment that investor might want to approach is to have a capital preservation strategy. So in that case, I would recommend for KAF Sukuk Fund and KAF Bond Fund for the investors who wanted to have a bit of conservative and defensive position in their portfolio. Despite the headwinds, there's still ample of opportunities for growth in the market. If you look at the landscape of Malaysia, there's compelling growth in the semiconductor industry, whereby initiative by the government to create data centers and all that. So this making a demand for semiconductors industry to be more productive, and companies such as technology companies in this space are going to thrive going forward. So that's why KAF Vision Fund, which emphasizes more on small and mid-cap funds, where these companies are always segmented in the stock market, emphasize on this type of growth. And for further stable and structured investment into large caps companies, KAF Core Income Fund will be one of the best investment for investors who want a stable and long-term type of returns for equity investment. In this environment between headwinds and opportunities, active investing is where the real gain meets, and passive investing always falls short. At KAF Technology, for us, we approach it pragmatically instead of speculative. We use AI as a tool. We use data-driven analytics and financial screening to assess and for our fund managers to make decisions on. This strips away all the administrative noise, and this helps us to make decisions more effectively and efficiently. However, the core of successful investing relies more on human intellect. This is where our fund managers added value. Algorithm alone cannot detect or gauge the emotions and the integrity of the management in an earnings briefing. So for our fund managers work hand in hand together with the management, and so that they can provide high conviction decision making, and this will aid to execute our investment strategy. To us, AI provides the data, but human insight provides the performance.